They hide his mother in a well for 7 days. What the son discovered will break your heart. Margaret Hughes was once the strongest woman in her neighborhood. She and her late husband, Thomas, built a humble, honest life in a small American town. They raised 2 sons, Evan, the elder, quiet, responsible, tender toward his parents, and Caleb, the younger, ambitious, impatient, always in a hurry to grow up. Margaret worked 2 jobs after Thomas passed away. Her hands aged quickly, her back bent early, but she never let her children feel the weight of life. She cooked warm meals every night, attended every school event, and gave the boys every piece of comfort she could afford. Years passed. The boys grew up. Caleb married Rachel, a polished woman with a cold heart and bright eyes that never softened toward Margaret. When Margaret moved into their home after a medical scare, she thought she would spend her final years surrounded by love. But instead, she walked into a house where kindness had a time limit, and patience lived on thin ice. Every day, Rachel's eyes grew colder. Every whisper behind closed doors carried resentment. And Margaret, too old, too gentle, never complained. But what Rachel would do next was darker than anything Margaret could ever imagine. Rachel believed Margaret was a burden. She didn't hide it. She sighed loudly when Margaret asked for help. She complained about hospital bills. She joked about letting nature take its course. Caleb ignored the warnings. Love makes people blind. Or maybe convenience does. One afternoon, Rachel snapped. Margaret had accidentally dropped a glass of water on the kitchen floor. Her hands shook from weakness. Rachel grabbed the mop angrily. "For God's sake, Margaret. You can't even hold a cup. I'm done taking care of you." Margaret apologized quietly. Her son wasn't home. He never seemed to be home anymore. Later that night, Rachel made a phone call. Her voice was low, dangerous. "I'm going to fix this problem for good." Margaret, resting in the next room, didn't hear it. But she would soon feel the consequences. The night Rachel chose to act would change Margaret's life forever. It was past midnight when Rachel knocked softly on Margaret's door. "Mom, I need your help outside for a moment," she said with false sweetness. Margaret, half asleep and trusting by nature, followed her outside. The backyard was silent. The moonlight revealed the old dry rearing well behind the barn, once used for storing feed and tools, now barely touched. Rachel led her closer. "Can you look inside? I heard something fall in." Margaret leaned forward. And Rachel shoved her. Margaret fell with a terrified gasp. The echo of her body hitting the dry dirt below was swallowed by the darkness. Rachel slammed the wooden cover shut. Finally, she whispered. The old well was deep, cold, and suffocatingly dark. Margaret cried out, but no one heard. Rachel went inside, washed her hands, and slept peacefully. But Margaret was alive, and her nightmare had only just begun. The first day was fear. The second was pain. The third was hunger. Margaret's body shook from the cold. The well walls were rough, scraping her arms whenever she tried to stand. Food came once every 24 hours, a small slice of stale bread tossed down without a word. She begged for water. None came. She begged for light. Only darkness answered. Every night, she whispered her sons' names. "Evan. Caleb. Please find me." No footsteps came. Rachel made sure of that. She told Caleb his mother had decided to visit an old friend for a while. He believed her, because he wanted to. On the 6th day, Margaret stopped shouting. Her throat hurt too much. Her strength was nearly gone. The 7th day. She didn't know if she'd survive. But fate was about to intervene from the most unexpected place. On the 7th morning, a neighbor's dog, a big golden retriever named Milo, wandered into the yard. His leash had snapped during a walk. He sniffed the ground, paused near the well, and began barking wildly. Loud. Urgent. Relentless. The neighbor came running. "Milo. What is it? What's wrong, boy?" When he heard a faint, broken voice echo from the well, the neighbor's eyes widened. "Oh my God, someone's down there." He called the police and Caleb at the same time. Within minutes, bright lights flashed across the yard. Officers rushed in. A rope was lowered. Margaret was lifted out, weak, dehydrated, barely conscious. Caleb arrived in tears. "Mom? Mom?" Margaret's cracked voice whispered one name. "Rachel." Caleb didn't understand, until the truth came out like a storm. At the hospital, investigators asked questions. Too many questions. Rachel tried to cry. Tried to lie. Tried to bend the truth. But Margaret's simple, trembling words exposed everything. "She pushed me, she threw bread down to keep me alive, she left me there." Caleb stared at his wife, horrified. "You did this? To my mother?" Rachel's mask finally cracked. "She was ruining our lives. We're not caretakers. I just wanted freedom." Caleb stepped back like he'd been stabbed. His voice broke. "You tried to kill her." Police escorted Rachel out in handcuffs. Neighbors watched, whispering. No one defended her. Caleb fell to his knees beside his mother's bed, sobbing. "Mom. I'm so sorry. I should have seen it. I should have protected you." Margaret lifted her trembling hand to his cheek. "You're my son. I forgive you." But forgiveness was only the beginning of healing. Evan flew in from another state the moment he heard. He ran into the hospital room, pulled his mother into his arms, and wept the way he hadn't cried since childhood. For the first time in years, both sons sat beside their mother together. They stayed overnight. They brought flowers, blankets, and warm meals. They didn't argue. They didn't check their phones. They just stayed. Caleb couldn't stop replaying the past months, every time he ignored Margaret's exhaustion, every time he dismissed her discomfort, every time Rachel rolled her eyes and he said nothing. Guilt haunted him. But Margaret held her boys close and whispered, "I still have you. That's enough." For the first time in years, she felt safe. Now, all that remained was rebuilding the life she almost lost. After weeks of recovery, Margaret moved into Evan's home. A warm guest room. A soft quilt. Sunlight through the window, no darkness, ever again. Caleb visited every day. He cooked for her. Read to her. Sat quietly beside her when guilt swallowed him. "Don't punish yourself forever," Margaret whispered one day. "You came back. That's what matters." The sons promised they would never let her feel alone again. Not for a day. Not for an hour. Margaret slowly regained strength. Her laughter returned, gentle, fragile, beautiful. The well was sealed forever. The past too. Not forgotten. But overcome. Because she survived. Because love, when it returns, is enough to pull a person out of any darkness. And now, Margaret finally lived in the light again. The story ends here, but the lesson stays forever. Never ignore the quiet suffering of the ones who once raised you.